And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we're going to be talking about Raised by Wolves Season 2, Episode number 5. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. Leave a like, leave a comment. And this shit was scary, man. Like this was a nightmarish, just disturbing ass episode. I talked a lot in the last week's review about how the show, some of the body horror and some of the, more disturbing imagery that they showed, whether it was with Vril being attacked by her mom or what happened to Paul. And this week just said, yeah, you thought that was messed up? Boom. I mean, we're jumping right into it, and we'll backtrack and get into the details. But Vril's revenge, man, like they're all chilling, doing their little prayer as Marcus goes down to his trial of, being the chosen one or whatever. And it starts raining, the camera pans up. I mean, it was beautifully shot. She comes in, no face, just starts murdering everybody. It's brutal. It's gory. Her voice box or whatever is damaged, so the way she speaks, it's disturbing, even down to when she kills Decima, and she stealthily comes down in the vehicle. That was straight from like a old like alien movie or something. Hangs her, rips her face off. I mean, all the imagery is horrible. I wanted to talk about that first because that's the thing that stuck with me the most. Vril's revenge, as I called it. Thoughts on sort of that? She's still out there too. Let me point that out.
Yeah.
She is still out there.
Good. That's the craziest thought. Yeah, she's still out there, and I'm curious. After this, where does that character go? Is she sane enough to join any of the other groups, or is she just kind of a threat to everyone? But like you said, that scene was completely it was unexpected for that to just turn into horror, or at least that type of horror, where she's just running around real fast, sneaking around corners and jumping out and stabbing people. I definitely didn't see that coming. But yeah, I'm curious, like you said, after that scene, what's next for this character?
I cannot even pretend that I saw that coming. I saw her getting some kind of revenge because I didn't think that she had died, but I didn't figure it was going to be on everybody. I figured it was just going to be on what's her face, her
Decima.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which we don't have to say her name anymore because she's gone.
But I assumed that it was just going to be on her. 100%. I didn't assume that she would take everybody else out, but come to think of it, everyone else was involved. They were like holding her down, and so them all getting, to me, what they deserved was fantastic. But Larry brought up, where would her story go from here? Would anybody accept her? She made a pretty good connection with Campion when they were together there for that short period of time. So I'm curious if that's going to go further, or if that's maybe the route they'll go next. I'm not sure. To me, that's the only thing that would make sense, because her taking out everybody and then just kind of wandering off would be, to me, a waste of the character. But I am curious to see where her story does go from here, though.
I could see Mother trying to help her, if anybody. Like you said, partially because of Campion too. But because I imagine at some point her face will likely be repaired and everything, and they'll try to deal with some of that psychological damage, because clearly it's there, and she killed this whole group of people, of course, because like she mentioned, they took her mother, and then her mother herself betrayed her. So I guess even the androids can be wounded in that way.
Yeah. And she was using that the tool she was using to kill them. Doesn't that have some kind of relevancy to their religion and to the prophecies and everything? So I'm curious if that how that's going to play into it as well.
Well, originally wasn't Sue using it as like a hairpin, and then Marcus used it and tried to stab her with it. And it's got a lot of history.
Yeah.
It almost makes me feel like an Oedipus kind of, not because there was any kid sleeping with their mom thing, but Oedipus stuff, he stabbed his own eyes out with a hairpin that was on, I want to say it was his wife's hairpins, and he ended up gouging his own eyes out. So I'm wondering if something like that will happen, because there's a lot of old allegories that kind of line up with other things. So I'm curious if something like that will happen.
Right, possibly, because like this whole thing spells out a grim future for Marcus overall. Like we know in season 1, and it's yet to happen. We've seen him with the little punishment helmet on that the first guy was wearing. They're the prisoner that the Mithraic originally brought with him, and that hasn't happened yet. But that was a vision that he had also. So, at some point I feel like things are going to go very much south for Marcus.
Well, on that note, yeah, let's go into Marcus tying into that whole sequence. He, is leading the group. Decima's sort of like not into the idea that he's the prophet anymore. They stumble upon this temple, and he's going to be lowered down. All the while, Father is on a quest to retrieve Holly, who's with the Marcus's group, and he goes and recruits Lucius to basically go get Holly and then assassinate Marcus, which is his goal. Marcus gets lowered down. A lot of weird shit happens. He discovers this person. Then they sort of devolve in front of him. He has the tooth of Romulus around his neck. That affects the body. It devolves. It has some kind of important relic in his pocket. Marcus takes that. He escapes. It sounds crazy. I mean, a lot is happening, and I don't know what any of it really means. But in the end, Marcus is up there. Lucius is going to kill him, and he stopped because of Holly's new devotion to Marcus being the prophet. He saved her, and so Marcus lives another day. Thoughts on where Marcus's story is going? I'm assuming that thing he put in his pocket is going to be very important to keeping him alive, to the future of his story. And what is Lucius going to do? That's a character that's becoming very interesting. He is very set on, because he's also loyal to the faith, if you will, and he feels that Marcus is a big problem in all that. But yeah, the Marcus storyline.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the tooth, because I had a talk with a friend of ours about that. When they watched the episode, that's the first thing they mentioned. They were like, "So the magic tooth?" And I was, just kind of going. I'm like, well, maybe it was nanomachines. We saw like a dust floating towards the guy, and he's like, "No, homie, that was magic." He waved the tooth at him. He waved the tooth at a man. He turned into a ghoul and attacked him. That was magic.
Didn't Paul say? Well, the whole going on that Paul's conversation with Sue about God, and she's like, "Well, I pray to. Well, it's an alien." He's like, "Well, what's the difference?"
Yeah, that's true.
It's a supreme being that's guiding us. Well, but go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Technology that you cannot differentiate from magic itself. They're so, their technology is so advanced beyond these people. But yeah, it was such a weird scene, and I'm sure we're gonna get some answers. And it may have to do with the tooth and the thing in guy's pocket. But I am curious. Why particularly did this tooth trigger that? Like, did that relic read something from the tooth? Like, I don't know, like some genetic information from the tooth, and then it triggered the transformation, perhaps.
And I think part of it too, there's a lot of theories on how life came to Earth, and we're not talking about like evolution or any of those kind of things, but they say the big meteor that hit off the coast of Mexico there, the Yucatan Peninsula, that they say that may be where the Big Bang started or whatever, is how life started forming, because it created these, they're alien because not aliens, but alien as in foreign to us, microbes to Earth's, water and atmosphere, and it created life. So this is a foreign planet. If that tooth came from a person of whatever Earth is, it may be a similar kind of effect where it was a foreign organism, and like you said, the relic that was in his pocket or something could have fed off of that foreign organism, and then perhaps it's something that way. Because I'm just trying to tie it to things that happen on Earth, because this is it's almost like a apocalyptic Mad Max version of Genesis is what it feels like. So
You know what? It could be. Yeah, it seems like there could have been potentially sort of a bioweapon on the tooth itself, like the whole issue we had with Mouse,
yeah,
and Marcus unknowingly brought that in with him.
Yeah, it was very Prometheus to me.
Yeah,
That whole sequence, even the guy, the way he looked a little bit was very similar to the
that's
Prometheus
weird.
aliens. Yeah, I wonder
Who was involved with that?
why'd they rip off Prometheus?
yeah. Really, Scott's like, look, I don't care whether you guys like it or not. I'm going to tell this damn story. You're gonna hear the story
He's
from
like, I
Prometheus.
have a vision, and you will see it in this show. The but yeah, that was a wild scene. I just love Marcus's performance throughout it all because he at this point he's sort of just going with the flow because he was just like whatever, screw it. He it seems like he feels that there's clearly something out there he's somehow communicating with, and he's just like I don't know, whatever. He seems to survive at every turn. But yeah, let's talk about this is a real quick one, and then we'll jump into the other meteor stuff. But Cleaver, which was the Trust sort of right hand. There's one quick little scene, but my God, was it a hell of a scene where he's being basically somewhat tortured, but interviewed basically because Mother's trying to figure out how to save Paul, and she's asking him, do you know that do you know what happened, whatever, and she starts quizzing him on things, and then all of a sudden she starts to realize and then breaks it down to him. You don't even know who you are. You've been brainwashed, essentially. You've been programmed. Humans can be. And the Trust used you like a puppet. It made you what you are. And so I'm curious if she's going to keep him around. Where does that character go now after sort of this moment of realizing that his life truly is a lie and that his loyalty was sort of forced upon him?
Yeah,
Well,
and
that, go ahead, Larry.
well, it also sounded like in that same statement that it was like a double entendre. Also, that she was implying that then and there she was also reprogramming Cleaver because he's like, I'm not a machine, and she says, I know that humans are much easier to reprogram. And so I'm very curious, like, what are her plans for Cleaver?
Well, and I was going to say something similar to that because seeing how easy he is to or how easy he was to program, she may use things that he knows or does to basically use it against him. And when a mind becomes that fragile, it's very receptive to suggestion and everything. And she was able to kind of throw him off and skew his words very easily. So I am curious now, not just Mother, but if she's going to use that to kind of convince some other people, and not just him, but if she can sway some other people to get on board to help her. I am curious if she's going to start using that, or if she's going to be wary that maybe some other people are being used against her in the same way.
But yeah, and right now she's breaking down Cleaver, but who's to say she's successful in building him back up, or that he doesn't escape or get out somehow before that? And the person that helps him reassemble his idea of who he is or what's right and wrong is either Marcus or Paul with his version of the Mithraic religion, which seems to be very on brand for the original. Because, like I said, Cleaver's very pliable. So who's to say what faction he's going to be a part of at the end of this? And he's also a guy who's used to, whether he knows it or not, sort of serving a deity. The way that he blindly just kind of followed everything that the Trust told him.
We have, speaking of the Trust, we have now a new android. Don't know much about it. We speculated that it's very powerful. Father reassembled it. He has a moment where there's an interaction. It seems like he understands it. It's communicating in some fashion with him, maybe. But the more interesting thing was Tempest's interaction with it, in which it, Sort of we see the fetus reflected in it. We know Tempest is pregnant. That pregnancy has been brought up multiple times this season, and was sort of highlighted in these scenes. I'm starting to wonder about that baby quite a bit now. But not much happened with the android. They're sort of, it seems like they're saving it. It's coming. But any thoughts on those scenes with the new android and Tempest's unborn child?
I think what was really cool, the veil thing that was on the android.
Yeah, that was
It
cool.
was almost like a projection screen. It was really, it felt like Fallout almost. Like the Fallout mixed with like a horror movie. So I don't, because it almost felt like a digital projection of what the android was seeing without showing the android's eyes, which was terrifying. Like as much as the whole scene with the teenage android basically wiping out a whole group of people, to me that I don't even know what it is, whether we call it the original mother or I don't know, OG mom. But
the internet's been, well, at least the, old Shift X and a lot of the other, people in there. When I hear it referred to, I hear people call it grandmother.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's cool.
But I think that grandmother was more terrifying than anything else in this episode, because that fear of the unknown.
The unknown,
And,
yeah.
yeah.
Another Ridley Scott thing.
Yep.
Yep. This whole episode felt like horror, to be honest. Like you said, grandmother was very ominous, and we still don't know her purpose, and she doesn't seem to be communicating with words. We have no idea what her purpose is, if there is one, or if she's establishing one right now. Because she just seems to be observing and taking in data, and who knows what that'll mean for anybody. It may be a blessing to Father that she apparently thinks he's funny.
Yeah, I love that. That was so good. A black hole. Was it a glass of milk? The big thing I purposely waited to the end because there's a lot of pieces to it. That being Sue and Paul and Campion and the Merman and all that shit. So basically, Paul, they just can't figure out what's going on. And so Sue has come to somewhat of a scientific approach to it, saying, okay, I know there's some shit out there. I don't know the details. I don't know what's going on, but clearly something spoke to Paul and told him the truth. Clearly there's something out there that has some kind of power. So I'm going to ask it for help. And she prayed. And then she had a vision, which led to her figuring out how to save Paul. And that led to a really cool scene where they, her and Campion get the merman to pull off the leeches. That was all really cool. The VFX in this episode, all the effects were top notch in this episode. So this leads to her saving Paul and then having that conversation at the end where Paul's basically like, well, telling her, well, what did you give in return? Like, there's got to be some kind of, this is an exchange. You're not just given, if you will, a blessing. To which we get an answer in the final moments of the episode. I had to turn on the subtitles, and basically she hears the words, grow the seeds, plant the seeds. So thoughts on Paul now, now that he's okay, Sue's journey. She's now going to be loyal to this thing because it helped her with Paul. What does grow the seeds, plant the seeds mean? And, this is just, and keep in mind also Marcus is heading back to camp. So he's going to be in the equation going forward as well. So, how is that reuniting possibly going to be?
I think the grow the seeds, plant the seeds reference was, I think whatever the Mer folk are, they battle with the giant snakes. They're like opposite ends of the human spectrum or humanity. I don't know what life spectrum there.
Real quick, on a sidebar, you just made me think of something. Imagine how fucked up that ocean is. This acid ocean. We've already seen some of the shit that's in there. Like, oh my god! Like, if they get some kind of vehicle where they can go in this acid ocean, like, what is down there?
Don't even want to know. I'm scared enough of the actual ocean. I don't want to know what's in that one.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm scared enough what's in the depths of our ocean, let alone a fake acid ocean.
But go ahead. I'm sorry. It's a nightmare for me.
But I'm thinking that, the grow the seeds, plant the seeds, that these leeches may help repopulate the dwindling merfolk population. So I think whatever was speaking to, what's her name? God,
Sue.
There's Sue. There's some shows where I could spot out every single name for some reason, and there's some that.
And it's not, for those listening, it's not that I ever remember these things. I have a book of notes. So when I say something, it's not because I remembered. I literally have a book in front of me. But
we were doing Big Sky, and you were just like, "Wow, what was the lady's name?" I was like, immediately.
Well, those I didn't write down. Yeah, if I don't know it, I didn't care enough to. Yeah, but you remember. That's true.
I don't.
But we've been watching that show for seems like a lifetime at this point.
I know, God.
I bet it does.
But I think that the grow the seeds, plant the seeds is them trying to get her to help them repopulate. Basically infect all the people, almost like vampiric, where it's like we infect all the people, they become one of us, and repopulate the merfolks. And I think that's what they were trying to get her to start helping do.
Well, I still think that the merfolks are like are devolved humans, much like the cave creature that we saw. I think when they devolve you, it takes on a number of different forms. But
I agree 100%. I think that, and we talked about gods and aliens, and even you mentioned it, Larry, like what created that ghoul in the cave. I'm curious as to what. There has to be multiple beings, whether it's gods, aliens, AI, whatever it is, on opposite ends of the wanting to win spectrum. And I'm curious as to who's controlling which factions at this point.
do you think that they're potentially, because it seems like it may be the case that this is a cycle that's been done again and again. And we saw that one form was the ghoul-like thing in the cave, and we saw a ton of those on the other side of the planet. Now we're seeing these fish guys. Do you think that whatever this force is that's talking in other people's heads, it's seeding other worlds with life, and then instructing them to come back to this planet in order to sort of, I don't know, maintain biodiversity or something? Or
I definitely, someone in our comments mentioned the idea of a cycle. And I agree. I do think that there's some kind of cycle at play here. The details of it, I have no idea. But yeah, I think there's plenty of evidence that it just feels like this stuff has happened before. And like you've brought up a million times, Larry, all their tech is based on, it's nothing they invented. It's something that they were given essentially, and therefore it led them there. Why? What is the reason for this? We keep fighting these artifacts. It's as if things have happened multiple times. So yeah, I think there is a cycle at play here.
and then we have the cave drawings in season 1, which shows that like it seems like this has happened again and again, and will happen again. But I feel like, for them to do that, for them to, potentially devolve this group the way they devolved the other previous groups, if that's their goal, or for this thing to accomplish whatever it's trying to accomplish, that the seeds it wants sown is the seeds of doubt, that maybe it wants see, I miss so many. It's a tongue twister. But the thing it wants Sue to do is to undermine Mother, is to tear apart this group so that they're scattered, so that everybody's a little more vulnerable. or maybe even it wants her to.
I'm sorry. I was thinking it would be great if when she goes to her room, there's a little pouch of seeds.
It's literal.
She just has
seeds.
to go plant the seeds.
Yeah, just
Like the episode with The Office where Jen gets Dwight to take the magic beans.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, that was a good one.
yeah, because she's sweating and she's crazed, and she's like, yes, I will do that, and she just literally plants some seeds because these dumbasses have been foraging for food and they haven't planted shit. Like, but that would be great.
Damn, how the fuck would you water it? Like, you're gonna use the acid water?
Acid.
Yeah,
man.
you just pour a little acid on that.
What kind of food would that grow? Holy
Just
shit!
get father to bleed on it.
Yeah, where is the actual water? Are they like somehow? How are they getting water?
I don't think they've shown, have they? I'm assuming maybe some of them plants. Maybe they have a well or something. No, I don't think they've ever shown us.
They're just drinking each other's piss and purifying it.
Maybe
with their technology, could be like Star Wars. They got moisture farms.
There's enough. I mean, there's the large trees and plant life on that side. So there has to be some kind of I think we've seen it. Yeah, we saw it rain. So yeah, there's got to be some water.
Yeah, that's true.
I have more questions now about the rain mixing with the acid ocean. That doesn't make sense. There would be reactions.
Yeah, right.
Well,
This acid ocean, there's a lot of. We know for a fact that there are acidic Venus, I believe, has an acidic, or is it Mercury? One of them has an acidic atmosphere. There's also not trees and shit all over them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand the idea of acid being on a planet, or whether it's in the atmosphere, it rains acid. Like, that's a real thing that we know. But there's not fucking trees and shit like living next to it. But whatever.
Is the clouds forming over bodies of water because of evaporation? Like, that's what causes rain and shit. So like, if it's evaporating from the acid ocean and then raining and creating these rivers and different things, because we can't drink ocean water, it'd fuck you up. It'd make you sick as hell. But if you drink moving water, it's okay. So that
water everywhere, but not a drop to drink.
Yeah, it's very odd.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, like the actual water cycle, and also thinking, isn't it weird that this is the one thing that we've latched on, but other people I've talked to have as well since episode 1.
It's a show that so embraces a lot of sci-fi ideas, and all of it, even the crazy stuff. I'm like, I can get behind that. I can suspend belief a little bit. Like, you know what, that makes sense. But the acid ocean doesn't. It bothers me because it's not it's I just don't understand how people can stand next to it. Like, I don't know, any scientists out there that this makes sense to you, I would love for you to put it in the comments. If you do, I will pin it. But yeah, I don't know, it just bothers me.
I would say, or if Ridley Scott wants to angrily come in the
it's like, Pulp Mythos, you don't know shit about acid.
Well, this isn't 100% a justification, but do you remember the scene in Interstellar where they're on that one planet that's basically just all water? They land the ship on there, and it's, what is it, like every second is like 7 minutes or some shit? I don't remember.
No, a second is 24 hours on Earth.
Yeah, I knew it was like astronomical. I didn't remember it was that much, but
yeah. So, because remember, it's like when they leave, it's a dozen years or so.
Yeah,
several years. Yeah.
So, what if it's something similar to that, like on this planet, and the water is not necessarily acidic, but it's like hyper reactive to
organic life?
Yeah. So, or non-organic life, because they aren't from there. Their ships weren't made there. So, the acid itself may not be acid. It may just be attacking whatever this planet is called, life.
It definitely doesn't I see what you're saying. Like, it's the properties of it are not what we look at as acid. Yeah, I don't know.
I would like an explanation, Ridley, for listening. I don't even care what the explanation is. I just want it. I just want an answer at this point.
I just thought, going back to when we first brought it up a couple episodes back, or like at the beginning, just, Marcus and them are just, standing up there breathing in the sea air. And I'm like, how? How are you doing that?
That's not a sea spray you want to breathe in.
Exactly. Because they go out of their way to show you what happens when you come into contact with it. When those guys were in the cave, it's like everything on them and them themselves was just melted immediately. So I'm like, wow, shit.
Well, that one container ship
Oh,
went in and it immediately was like destroyed.
So yeah,
Yeah, seemingly it and everything in it, was completely dissolved.
but yeah, I think that was all my notes. Yes. Yeah. Anything else? How many episodes? I know I bring it up like every freaking week because I feel like it's almost over, but I can't be.
This one only has 6. This season only.
It only has what?
Are you sure?
According to IMDb.
God damn it!
You say there's only 6 episodes?
Yep.
That means there's only one left.
Oh, no way. I think we're all just sitting here in stunned silence because that's pretty unbelievable.
I'm looking it up. I think I remember.
Yep.
Well, that's a tragedy, unless that's just how he wanted to do this season for some reason. I mean, if we're getting 6 at a time, if we're in the seasons sooner, then well, I guess.
Well, and I only say this because of, like Netflix has Ozark. I'm caught all the way back up now. But the second half of season 4 comes out in like April. So I don't know if he's doing it that way, maybe doing like 6 more episodes or something. But normally, even IMDb would indicate that it would just not have like a time. It would just, they'd be grayed out, but it just shows 6. So I don't know.
Yeah, the tree.
Hmm.
Oh well.
Well, I was about to say something, but now I hope I'm wrong, because I was going to say I hope that Campion and Father have like a talk for a few minutes about the plausibility of that acid ocean. That it's addressed in show.
He's like, Father, this doesn't make any sense.
It's like, well, you see, Campion. And he just goes into a long-winded explanation.
And then you do a dad joke.
I love that he was programmed with those.
Yes. Yeah, it feels like the season's just getting going, just started. But oh well. Anything else regarding the second to last episode of the season?
No, just sad.
Yeah, now I'm sad. That's it.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, we appreciate everyone listening. We will be covering the final episode. We'll be talking about it. Check out other stuff on the channel. We appreciate everyone listening, and yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay woke.